Hey guys, it's Saga from TechWorks. I've been using the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus since it came out, and in that time, I took a lot of image and videos with it. I'm glad I took some time to post its camera review because with the latest software update, Samsung added a dedicated night mode to its camera, and I was able to take and compare a few images with and without the night mode in this video. After bringing one of the first variable apertures in smartphone cameras with the S9 and S9 Plus, this year, Samsung adds an extra lens to the mix, which means the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus comes with a triple camera setup at the back. It is nice to get 3 different focal lengths while shooting on a smartphone, as it adds a lot of versatility to your shots. It also gets an interesting dual camera setup at the front, so on the S10 Plus, we get 5 cameras in total. Now before we look at the specifications of these 5 cameras, why don't you take a few seconds to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon next to it. This way, you won't miss out on any of the amazing videos coming up on this channel. Primary camera at the back has a 12 megapixel sensor with variable aperture of f1.5 to 2.4, 26mm lens. Each individual pixel has a size of 1.4 micron and this module gets optical image stabilization. Second camera again gets a 12 megapixel sensor with f2.4 aperture, 52mm telephoto lens. Each individual pixel has a size of 1 micron and it also has optical image stabilization. Third camera has a 16 megapixel sensor with f2.2 aperture and 12mm ultra wide angle lens. It can shoot 4K 30 and 60 fps videos, 1080p 30, 60 and 240 fps and 720p super slow motion videos in 960 fps. It is also one of the few phones which can shoot HDR videos. At the front, this time we get the dual camera setup in this weird looking cutout in the display. Primary camera has a 10 megapixel sensor with f1.9 aperture and a 26mm lens, while the secondary camera gets a 8 megapixel sensor with f2.2 aperture and a slightly wider 22mm lens. And this one is just a depth sensor, so it is there to get you help better portrait selfies. Now the front camera can also shoot 4K 30 fps videos. This is something that you don't get on too many smartphones. With all the specifications out of the way, let us now get to the image and video samples that I took with this S10 Plus. Starting with bright daylight images, you can see how detailed and sharp they are. Right now it is summer in India, which means we have the sun shining very bright, giving us a lot of light for these crispy looking images. Even in shadows, the primary camera on this S10 Plus captures a whole lot of details. Colors are looking good from this phone in almost all lighting conditions. They are vibrant and look really good, but at the same time, they are not overly saturated like from Samsung smartphones from a couple of years ago. Almost all the images from the S10 Plus are a bit overexposed, so with most of your photos, you will have to pull the brightness slider down a bit yourself. It shows excellent dynamic range when the situation demands it. Just look at the amount of details it managed to bring up from the shadows even when there was a bright sun in the background. Now you have 3 different focal lengths to choose from. Up until a few years back, you had that option only while using interchangeable lens cameras. Having various focal lengths on a smartphone that we can fit in our pocket is such a luxury. Here's the same shot with the wide lens, normal lens and the 2x telephoto lens. Thanks to these 3 lenses, you can now compose your shots in many different ways. Here are a few more examples of the same shot captured at 3 different focal lengths. Normal and telephoto lens take sharp photos throughout the frame, but the edges of the images shot with the wide lens are not as sharp and there is a bit of chromatic aberration. Center of the frame is perfectly sharp, but the corners are not. This is not a huge deal breaker because you only notice it if you zoom into these images. But I still wish we had crisper shots throughout the frame. Also be aware of various distortions if you plan on shooting people with this ultra wide lens. It sometimes makes people appear very tall or might distort them in some other funny or weird way. So just be aware of that. Here's a focusing speed test before we move on to the close-up and macro shots. It is quick at changing the focus from far to near objects, and it is equally quick to change and set the right exposure according to the scene. Once the focus is set on a nearby object, you can get crisp and sharp close-up shots. It is really good at keeping the subject in sharp focus and you get a very nice blur to the background. You can also head over to the Pro mode and change the aperture to f1.5 to get even shallower depth of field or to add more blur to the background of your close-up shots. Coming to the portrait shots, Samsung calls it live focus. You have the option to adjust the amount of blur in the background, and you can also add various effects like spin, zoom and selective colors to these portrait shots. It detects the edges accurately and does very well to separate the subject from your background. Blur in the background looks very natural and the overall images are pleasing to look at. You can also capture portrait mode images of objects. Again, it is very accurate at detecting the edges and separating the subject from background. Sometimes the edges around the objects can be a bit soft, especially if the object is having multiple edges, but the images still look good and the colors are still amazing. If you are taking close-up images in lower light, I would suggest you to switch to the live focus mode. That way, the noise in the background is just blurred out and the image turns out much better. Speaking of low lighting shots, here are a few shots that I took with the S10 Plus in these situations. It does well and delivers crisp images in artificial and lower lighting areas. Text in these shots is clear and readable. But again, it has a problem with overexposing the overall shot. If you pull down the brightness slider just a bit, I feel that the images turn out much better. Colors are rich and vibrant in these low light images, and the image processing on the S10 Plus does really well to keep the noise levels down. You can switch to the wide lens in these situations as well. It is again not very sharp towards the corners, but it gives you a different perspective of the scene, which sometimes is very essential. From the Pro mode, you can also change the aperture to capture these low lighting shots. Here is a shot with f2.4 aperture, and now the same shot with f1.5 aperture, keeping all other settings the same. You can see how much more light the wider aperture lets in. With a recent software update, Samsung also added a dedicated night mode to the S10's camera. Here is a normal low light image, which I think already looks pretty good, and now here is a night mode image of the same shot. As you can see, image with the night mode is brighter, sharper, and it also handles the exposure from lights and colors better. It also does well and brings up more details from the darker areas. Here is another shot of a same scene with and without the night mode turned on. Again, the images with the night mode are brighter and a tad bit sharper. This mode does not bring drastic improvements, as the S10 Plus is already doing good in low lighting images. But it is always good to have a dedicated night mode to get better sharpness and brightness levels, which can separate these images from many other phones. That brings us to the front-facing cameras. These images are sharp and detailed, and to be honest, not a lot better or worse than other flagship smartphones. You have the option to take wide selfies, but these selfies are not as wide as you would expect, and I think Samsung could have done a bit better job with the exposure with all of the cameras on this phone. The secondary depth sensor at the front helps with portrait selfies. These selfies are good, but I don't see a lot of difference in the edge detection of these portrait selfies compared to the other phones which have single selfie cameras and rely on software for blurring the background. Good use of the secondary camera would have been putting an ultra-wide lens on it. I mean, even wider than it already has. So you could have again got a different perspective and more of your friends in the shot. Here's a video from the front-facing camera of the Galaxy S10 Plus. You can see how it handles the overall colors of the scene, exposure, and stabilization when I'm walking around with it. You can shoot 4K 30 and 60 fps videos with the S10 Plus. You can't switch between the lenses while shooting 4K 60 fps videos. While shooting in 30 fps, you have steady shot option, which makes your videos extremely stable. But the overall video is very soft with the steady shot turned on. Here's the same shot with the steady shot turned off. Video is still stable thanks to OIS, and it is very sharp. Here's a side-by-side comparison to show sharpness with and without the steady mode turned on. You can shoot between wide, normal and telephoto lens while you're shooting 4K on 1080p 30 fps videos. You also get the option to shoot 720p 960 fps super slow motion videos. And here are a couple of examples of it. There are not a lot of things happening in real life which would look very good in this frame rate. And since it is 720p, the quality is not as good. So instead of this, I prefer normal 120 or 240 fps 1080p slow motion videos. So after looking at all these image and video samples, I think the S10 Plus has got a very good set of cameras, especially with the addition of the new ultra-wide lens. With the night mode being added in the latest software update, it is also one of the better cameras now for taking low light images. Big thumbs up to Samsung for stepping up its camera game in low light photography. If you already have the S9 or S9 Plus, upgrading to the S10 Plus will give you slightly better cameras, but I doubt it will bring noticeable improvement to your overall day-to-day experience. That being said, if you are using any phone which is older than the S9 or S9 Plus, and if you are looking to get a smartphone which offers you a great set of cameras, then the S10 Plus should definitely be on your list of options, right up there with the Pixel 3, iPhone XS Max and the Huawei P30 Pro. In the next few days, I will be putting the cameras on the Galaxy S10 Plus, iPhone XS Max, Pixel 3 and the Huawei P30 Pro up against each other in a mega camera showdown. And while these 4 are best of the best flagship smartphones, the results of that camera comparison are going to be a bit surprising. So trust me, you don't want to miss that one. If you are going to purchase the Samsung Galaxy S10 or the S10 Plus, I will appreciate if you get it from the affiliate links in the description section. It helps the channel out at no extra cost to you. That is it for this video guys. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video and subscribe to the channel for more quality tech videos like this. You can also check out some of the other videos from this channel. This has been Sagar and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.